failure. She's not vexed with broken dreams. For the future's just beginning when you're always 17. It was 1961 when we went to Washington. She put her arms around me and said, Camelot's begun. We listened to his visions of how our land should be. We gave him our hearts and minds to send across the sea. 1963, white and black upon the land. She brought me to the monuments and made us all join hands. Scarcely 6 months later, she held me through the night. When we heard of what had happened in that brutal Dallas life. Oh, she is always 17. She has a dream that she will end us, and a love that we can borrow. There is so much joy inside her, she will even share our sorrow. She's our past, our present, and our promise of tomorrow. Oh, truly, she's the only hope I've seen, and she is always 17. It was 1965 and we were marching once more from the burning cities against the crazy war. Memphis, LA, and Chicago, we bled through 68 till she took me up to Woodstock saying, with love it's not too late. We started out the 70s living off the land. She was sowing seeds in Denver, trying to make me understand that mankind is woman and woman is man, and until we free each other we cannot free the land. Oh, she is always 17. She has a dream that she will end us, and love that we can borrow. There is so much joy inside her, she will even share our sorrow. She's our past, our present, and our promise of tomorrow. Oh, truly, she's the only hope I've seen, and she is always 17. I'm at the end of my rope, but she was picketing the White House, chanting the truth's the only hope. In 1975, when the crooked king was gone, she was feeding starving children, saying the dream must go on. She is always 17. She has a dream that she will lend us, and a love that we can borrow. There is so much joy inside her, she will even share our sorrow. She's our past, our present, and our promise of tomorrow. Oh, truly, she's the only hope I've seen, and she is always 17.
Let's join together in prayer. Precious and loving God, we thank you for all the ways that you send people in our lives that create this illusion of hope. We thank you for the people in our lives that inspire us in so many deeply compassionate ways, and we are driven to do some really good things. Today, Lord, as we think about this Harry Chapin song, She is Always 17, I want to think about the people that motivate us in such a way that they change who we are. Be with us today, Lord, in your Son's precious and loving name I pray. Amen. Over the last few years, when I turned 50, so the last couple of years, I wanted to do something more than just have a birthday. I have actually begun on my 50th birthday, arranging LGBTQIA plus gatherings of celebration, celebrating our LGBTQ siblings in such a way that they see, hey, there's this group of people that love you and celebrate you. The first year that I did it at 50, my birthday was on a Saturday. We did it early in the morning. There was many friends there. It was quite an awesome, memorable 50th birthday. This year was a little bit less. My birthday fell on a Sunday. Because I'm also a pastor, I had to move it Sunday afternoon. And the later in the day things get, the less attendants show up. But this actually became very beautiful and very... it may have been even more meaningful to me this year than the previous, even though that there were less people. They were all people that know me personally. And to have this close niche grouping of friends standing with me on the street corner in Temecula, California, and holding flags and waving in support of our LGBTQIA plus siblings, it was very wonderful. Now, one of my friends knows me so much that he started a Harry Chapin playlist. Now, that's the musician that wrote the song that I played today. She is always 17. And the first song that I heard off of his playlist was She Is Always 17. Now, in college, this song just meant the world to me in college. It was this song of this person that was out at all the protests and wanted to speak up for any marginalized community so that they would know that someone cared for them, that someone was looking out for them. And she carried this passion all the way through her life that within the title of the song and the chorus of this song, she was always this 17-year-old going out to try to make a change. And I'm sitting there, I'm holding this song, I always hold the trans flag when I go to these things. And for those of you that know my relationship with a young podcaster, I am a part of a podcast called The Single H Show as well. I interview this young sibling and talk with him through his journey in transitioning. One, to help me understand it better, and two, to help him document this very special thing that's going on in his life for his own personal prosperity, but also in case that there's other kids out there that need to hear this voice. I'm a great admirer of Single H for wanting to do this. But I'm on these journeys, so I always hold the transgender flag at these events and I'm sitting there, I'm holding the flag. My kids are with me at this event. It's the first time in a long time that I had the kids with me. Unfortunately, when I did the 50th birthday rally, my kids one of them was still in school, and well, the Saturdays is their busiest day doing stuff. So I didn't have them with me, but I had them this year at the 51st birthday bash. And I'm sitting there holding the flag, and there's Harry's voice. And I said, man, isn't it cool that my friend just decided to start playing Harry Chapin songs, but then it got cooler because She Is Always 17. And because of all the meanings that I held on to it in college, the meanings of thinking about that person that was so passionate about being a caregiver for so many things, that she did it her entire life, it was her image as the person standing for the marginalized her entire life, and to inspire somebody in such a way that they see this 17-year-old hero still out no matter what stage of existence they're in at the moment. I'm grateful for the heroes that step out and speak up. The name Pete Seeger really isn't talked about that much anymore, and I think about Pete Seeger frequently because Pete fighting against fascism and labor laws and fighting against Vietnam War like he did. Pete Seeger was this folk singer that was larger than life and inspired people like Harry Chapin, like Bobby Dylan. I think we don't talk about Harry Belafonte enough in the language that we should. I mean, I think there's generations of people that will always remember Harry Belafonte from singing Turn the World Around on the Muppet Show, but I will always remember more Harry Belafonte singing a song on the Smothers Brothers show that had the imageries of the violence that happened at Democratic Convention. And these individuals that have done so many things, but their name is starting to decrease through time. And I honestly, I would venture that the younger generation may not only know who Pete Seeger is by the he becomes kind of the antagonist in the Timothy Chalamet Bob Dylan movie that came out. That he is the person that kind of helped Bob find his voice, but in the movie they really present him as this person that's trying to keep folk music, and we get to that part at the folk music festival where Bob Dylan plugs in his electric guitar and Pete's one of the people trying to get the soundboard shut down. Now, whether that there's fact or fiction within that conversation, that's how a lot of people know Pete Seeger right now, and Pete did so much for the marginalized and fighting fascism and so forth. I'm glad that they made Woody Guthrie a fixture in this movie, and actually, if you watch the movie, A Complete Unknown is the name of the movie. They actually make Woody Guthrie a little bit more of the Obi-Wan Kenobi for Bob Dylan in this movie, even though that he is in the later stages of Lou Gehrig's disease in the film and can't even really talk, but he's a person there from his hospital bed cheering on Bob to do his thing. And that's the name of a person that we don't talk about a lot anymore either, is Woody Guthrie. And Woody was huge, hardcore pushing against fascism, including the lettering on his guitar, this weapon kills fascists. I think about these people that dedicated their lives, and then for some they are always 17, and to others they're not. I think I'm going to focus on that more on this conversation. I had some references of the mentorship of Paul, Barnabas, and Timothy that I was going to go through for the scriptural reference. But, you know, what I really want to talk about is I think about Ecclesiastes. I think about there's a time and a season for everything. And there's also a time and a season for our importance in a task. And until the point that that task has to be passed on to another person. Now, if I look at, I want to jump into a scriptural narrative real quick. If you look at Christ's journey, Christ understood the seasons of leadership, and Christ understood that there was a moment that he would not be there as a leader, always being 17 in someone else's eyes. He needed to work and to serve in such a way that he sparked the next generation to serve. So we literally see in Matthew 4, Christ comes out of the wilderness after being tempted, getting ready to begin his ministry, and Christ immediately sets his team players up, not so that he's necessarily not alone in this journey, and He did not want to be alone in his journey, but also from day one, he had people that he was teaching and training and showing what to do so that this season of his ministry could produce the season of theirs, and so forth. Now let's go back into this other narrative, because this other narrative really shines this very well, and I can take this on to Harry Chapin and almost into today. If you look at this lineage of musicians that we've been talking about, we begin with Woody Guthrie fighting fascism with folk music. This land is your land, this land is my land, trying to empower those who feel like things are being taken away from them to know that they are a part of a powerful structure that can make things better. We see Woody influence Pete Seeger in such a way that Pete takes up the torch and continues to carry it, fighting against labor inequality and continually fighting against the Red Scare in so many different ways. And then this grows from Pete to Bob Dylan, but also it grows from Pete to Bob Dylan, that it grows from Pete to Harry Chapin. Harry Chapin has this song, it's called Old Folky, and it's a song written and dedicated to and about Pete Seeger. And he's the man with the banjo and the 12-string guitar, and he's writing us the songs to look at who we are. When we look at his life, we know that he's really been there. So we get the beauty of that with even Pete Seeger inspiring Harry Chapin. But then we move into this new world, and we know that everything has a season. We look at this time frame of Harry Chapin's life, that Bob Ayers was a priest that Harry Chapin became really good friends with, and they did radio shows, and they worked together to create this concept of how music concerts could be used as fundraisers to bring awareness of other needs and other causes. Harry Chapin spent time in Africa as a documentarian and saw the difference between saw the distance between those in the most in need and those that were the most elite, and he started this challenge throughout his career that there's enough food in this world for everyone to have. We just need to figure out a way that everyone can have it. So he starts building this concept with Bill Ayers that they're going to do this mega concert with different folk singers, Pete and Harry and the like, different folk singers or rock stars that Harry had become friends with, and they were going to do a concert to raise money for food insecurity. But unfortunately, during this time of training, preparing, Harry Chapin has a heart attack on the Long Island Expressway, is rear-ended by a tractor trailer and dies. But the word gets out of this work, and this guy named Bob Geldof begins to get this idea as well and picks it up. Bob Geldof begins to create not just Live Aid, but Farm Aid and USA for Africa and all of these different humanitarian efforts using the power of music to bring all of this hope and peace. And we see that through that sparked by this work of Harry Chapin. The USA for Africa won a Grammy for We Are the World, and Harry Belafonte goes up front to receive the award, and he talks about the pebble that was thrown into the water by Harry Chapin and Bob Ayers that became all of these things. So we go on these journeys, and we need to both be the person that's always 17 for another person, that will inspire them to look at the world through a different set of eyes and help them celebrate things in such a way that it inspires hope for them to become involved in it. But also we need to be willing to step aside so that what is coming next can take its place and make its difference. I thought about that when I watched The Complete Unknown, because they're Pete Seeger as presented in the movie. Everybody hear me out. Pete Seeger, the key words is as presented in the movie. He had this deep love of folk music, and he wanted to know that folk music would always exist, and he found the prodigy in Bob Dylan, and he wanted Bob Dylan to be the person that carried folk music into this into a new season. Well, he did, but unfortunately he wasn't quite doing it the way that Pete wanted it done. So if you watch the narrative presented by the movie, that Pete Seeger becomes the unintentional antagonist in this film because he wants folk music to be folk music, and he really needs Bob Dylan to be the person that carries it, because Bob Dylan was getting people's attention. He was the headliner at all these things. So sometimes we need to have this other voice that comes along and says, hey, it's time to step aside so that somebody can do this differently. And in the movie, it's actually Pete Seeger's wife that helps Pete see this. But sometimes we need the mentors that say, yes, this has been done a specific way, and we need to do it in a new way. I think about that in the narrative of the Apostle Paul, and this is where I would have put in the conversations between Paul and Barnabas and Timothy and the like, and all this mentorship going on, because what Christ and the apostles did, Christ and the apostles kind of had this niche group of people that was listening to them, and Christ does open the door for other cultures outside of Judaism to begin to hear the narrative of salvation through the actions and grace of Jesus Christ. But it's really not until the Apostle Paul begins his ministry and his letters to Philippi and Corinth and Ephesus that it begins to open out to other people that would not have been included in the narrative if everything stayed in the cultural focus of Judaism. So let's look at this back at the narrative of the Bob Dylan, the folk music journey. Bob Dylan needed to plug in at the folk festival. Bob Dylan needed to introduce this electrical rendition of what folk music could be, so that folk music still exists today. And I have to tell you right now, folk music is thriving today, and Joni Mitchell is still making records, but there's this new guy named Jess Wells that is the 21st century Bob Dylan. And it's amazing what he's doing with music. Folk music has not only thrived, but it's becoming the voice again in this new season of living. And in the movie, there's this outside voice. And as I talk about the Apostle Paul maybe presenting a new way to share the gospel, Johnny Cash really becomes the Apostle Paul of this narrative presented in A Complete Unknown for Bob Dylan to do what he's going to do. Bob Dylan and Johnny Cash, as depicted in this film, began to write letters back and forth. Johnny Cash really gets Bob Dylan riled up. And there's one phrase that I say to myself before I go to a school board meeting or a city hall function or what have you. And that phrase is, it's time to track some mud on the carpets. You got to track some mud on the carpets. And that's something that Johnny Cash keeps saying to Bob Dylan, and then Bob Dylan plugs in and folk music becomes something new, and it carries on to Harry Chapin, and it carries on to Jess Wells and Joni Mitchell, and all of the other voices of that time frame keep carrying the message as well. I feel that folk music, as we grow folk music and the rock music, I think that we have this lineage of Woody Guthrie to Pete Seeger to Bob Dylan to Bruce Springsteen and everything that Bruce Springsteen did. But it needed to have that shift along the way as well. And it's realizing that the season of the 17-year-old voice needed to be passed on and done in a new way. And we carry it all the way to Jess Wells today. But we look at the Gospels and we look at the writings of the Apostle Paul, and we see Apostle Paul do it in a new way until that we get to Mike Davis and me standing in a pulpit on a Sunday morning talking about things that pastors never dreamed they would, because it's now that season to do so. So that Always 17 voice may change its tone and inflections, or even its path at times, because of those that pick up the torch next. But man, it's still making the difference. So I'm really grateful today for my friend that chose not only to play Harry Chapin at the 51st birthday celebration, but also the luck of the draw from Spotify playing She Was Always 17 as the first song. If you are that voice that's always 17 to someone else, keep providing hope. If you're that voice that's lighting a torch for another person, light it and celebrate their torch as they step out to share it. But within all things, let's find ways to be there for others. May the peace of the Lord Jesus Christ be with you all today. God is love. Amen. This has been a presentation of Transcended Media.